for the greater things, but the other part of me is just scared out of my mind. Now, there's a lot of voices in my head, and there's thoughts, and it's hard for me to discern what's the truth and what's the lies that I believe. Now, I know that we have preteens and teenagers here. I'm so sorry for you, and may the Lord bless you. And I mean that in all seriousness. I was told that my grade 7 to 12 were supposed to be the best years of my life, and I think that person was serious. Now, if you're having a great junior high and high school experience, I'm actually really happy for you. That's great. But if you're not, I understand. It's a lot of pain, and I really feel for our kids. It's confusing, and there's a lot of formation that happens at that time, even just in simple biology in our brain development. One day I dropped Anna off at school, and she's in grade 9, and I said, "Do you need anything before I throw you out amongst the wolves?" And I meant it. Now, when I was in grade 10, so I'd entering into high school, I don't know how it works for everybody, but here they split up into where you could do like academic or non-academic, so they have -1 and -2. For the most part, I like the split. I was never strong academically. I have something that I like to call being an undiagnosed dyslexic. I have some learning disability. I was always labeled with that, but was never like officially diagnosed, to whatever that would be. I spent most of my elementary years doing math in grade 1 phonics, and I just want to say thank you to my parents who took me out of school because the school was just going to have me do kindergarten for the 3rd time. And it didn't seem like that was really going to help me. So thanks, Mom and Dad, because there was a lot of crying and there was a lot of tears when you deal with a strong-willed daughter and whose brain doesn't work the way that the education system does. When we moved back to Canada, they put me in grade 7. I skipped grade 6. I don't know how that happened. God's providence. But once we were in high school and they had the split, I found it a little bit easier. I was in the non-academic group, except for our social class. They had the -1s, the academics and the non-academics together. And I'd have this anxiety every time that I would go in. Now, for the most part, because of having multiple panic attacks in grade 7, I was excused from giving class presentations from most teachers. And I always find it ironic when I share this in a testimony. But when it came to our grade 10 social teacher, he's very good at involving students, and he's pretty interactive. And I don't think he was going to let me get away with it, like some of the other teachers did. But this isn't to say anything against him. He's actually like a huge teddy bear and has a really big, compassionate heart. He was this big football coach, and one day he announced our first presentation assignment, and I completely shut down. Crazy thing about anxiety, you sit there and you're in class, and I just started crying. I couldn't breathe, so I can't hear instructions. So I struggle with learning, and then if you struggle with anxiety, it's hard to comprehend what people are saying. So he noticed me, sitting there crying and trying to contain myself so I wasn't sitting there, right, through the whole thing. But after the bell rang, he called me to his desk after my classmates left. And, I have tears, snot, I'm looking at him, and he just says to me, "You have so many donkeys in your head." But he didn't use the word donkeys. I looked at him confused. He said, "These donkeys keep filling your head with lies, that you're stupid and that you can't do it." And then he looked at me intensely and said, "And you believe them." And he was absolutely right. I don't think that I responded because I wasn't really in the condition to do so. And he said to me, "Sarah Jane's awesome. You tell them that they don't know beepity beep and send them back beepity beep where they came from." This was my social teacher. Then when presentation day actually came, after a few people went, he told everyone to get into the hallway, which really isn't weird for this teacher. So I started getting up and leaving, and then he told me to stay. So he was going to have me present in front of just him while kicking out all the rest of the class in the hallway. Now, it may sound like he was centering me out and labeling more than I already felt like I labeled myself and was labeled by others. But it's not so much about what he did, it had to do with how he did it. Now, if you would have seen the way that, as I presented shakingly, I don't even remember what the topic was. I remember I talked a lot about Mother Teresa. She's India and Calcutta, it's been a big deal for a long time. But he looked at me and he completely ignored my class being ridiculous in the hallway, which I have no idea how the principal would have felt about that. I remember the boys putting their faces on the glass by the doors, and I'm sitting there shaking, watching them, but he looked at me like I was the only person in the entire world. And some of those donkeys in my head were silenced that day.